I was in my office reviewing the latest batch of quarterly reports when my phone buzzed on the desk. I glanced at the screen. It was Kyle calling, and that was strange. Usually, he shot me a text message first. A phone call meant something big was going on, something he either couldn't or wouldn't put in writing. The second I picked up and heard his unsteady voice, my gut nodded. "Aaron, man, I need you to sit down. Like, now." I was already seated, but the uneasy edge in his tone made my heart pound. "Kyle, what's going on? Why do you sound like that?" He hesitated. "Look, you know I don't like being the bearer of bad news, but, it's Joyce. She's at a club right now, man, and you're not gonna like what I've seen." For a split second, I felt almost relieved. Maybe she was out with friends, having a wild night, dancing. Then Kyle's voice dropped so low I could barely hear him. "She's practically having closeness on the dance floor, Aaron. She's grinding all over some guy, and it's not just some rando. It's Zachary, your old buddy Zach. They were making out right in front of everyone, and her hand, Jesus, man, her hand was in his pocket. She was groping him." My pulse hammered. Zachary, her ex from college, the one who'd hurt her a long time ago. I clenched the phone. Zachary? And she's in public, are you sure?" "I'm sure. Look, I swear to you, Paul's there too, and Linda. They're egging her on, cheering, basically treating it like a show at your expense." It felt like my stomach dropped out of my body. My wife, letting herself be mauled by the ex who once disappeared from her life, humiliating me with an audience of so-called friends. Couldn't be real, couldn't be happening. But Kyle had never lied to me. A part of me wanted to hold on to some last shred of denial, but that promptly died as Kyle said, "I'm texting you the club details. It's called the Crystal Globe. I'm sorry, Aaron." I glanced at my phone. A notification flashed. "Location received." I barely recall moving. I grabbed my jacket, started the car, and tore through the streets on autopilot. Stoplights and speed limits ceased to exist for me. Anger rose in my chest like an avalanche, unstoppable and crushing. Paul was there, cheering. Linda, too. These were people who'd broken bread at my table, laughed with me, promised to look out for Joyce whenever I wasn't around. But apparently, that loyalty didn't matter once entertainment was involved. I parked haphazardly outside the Crystal Globe. Neon lights flickering. The muffled thud of bass resonated through the pavement. The bouncer at the door did a bored once-over, but Kyle was right behind him, waving me in. "They're up near the main bar, over there." He pointed across the undulating crowd. The music battered my ears, some heavy beat that matched the thunder of blood in my veins. I fought my way through sweaty bodies and pulsing lights, ignoring the stench of alcohol and perfume. Then I saw them. Joyce, my wife, pressed up against Zachary like nothing else existed, her hand obviously stuck in his front pocket, her face turned slightly upward in a lazy, drunken expression as she kissed him with a slow, deliberate hunger. He had his arms around her waist, letting his hands slide lower. She angled her head, parted her lips, and they went at it right there. My windpipe constricted, the betrayal slamming me like a fist to the gut. Paul was standing off to the side with a liquor glass in hand, Linda perched on a stool like a smug cat, both wearing giant smirks. My so-called friends. The nerve, the absolute nerve. I shoved through two couples and closed the distance. Joyce noticed me at the last moment, turned, and drew away from Zach, casually, leisurely. There was no shame in her eyes, no guilt, no shock. She gave a half smile, glossy with lipstick and sweat. "Oh, Aaron," she said, as if greeting me at a casual dinner. "Hi." I lifted a warning hand. "Don't start. Not one miserable word." My voice was too calm, too even. Rage boiled just beneath the surface, but I refused to give her or anyone else the satisfaction of seeing me unravel that easily. She shrugged, pulling her hand from Zachary's pocket. "Well, I guess the cat's out of the bag, right? I asked for a divorce. I was going to tell you soon, but..." The reality slapped me again. "A divorce?" I repeated. "So you decided to flaunt your affair in public, with Paul and Linda acting like an audience?" Joyce, unbelievably, gave a small nod. "I mean, I wanted you to see that Zach's back in my life, that I love him, and I'm done faking it with you." She let out what might have been a nervous laugh. "Besides, Paul said..." Paul stepped forward, sneering. "Hey, don't blame me. You've been ignoring Joyce's needs for months, man. She deserves..." I moved without thinking. My fist found his collar, and I pushed him back. He stumbled, sloshing his half-full drink. The people around us yelped. The music kept pumping, but tension gathered. "You want to talk about ignoring needs, Paul?" I said in a low snarl. "You were in my house last month, acting like a loyal friend. Then you stand here urging her to get crazy in a club with her ex? You worthless backstabber! Linda jumped off her stool. Paul, watch out! She hissed, apparently worried I might knock him out. As if I wouldn't. She shot me a sharp glare. You know, Aaron, you've been nothing but controlling. No wonder Joyce is stepping out. That was it for me. I turned to Joyce, not even sparing Linda a glance. How long? I demanded. My voice shook with fury. How long have you been screwing him behind my back? She pursed her lips, as though annoyed by my tone. 3 months, she said softly, but there wasn't much shame. I reconnected with Zach when he moved back to town. I was going to break it to you gently. And you thought hooking up with him in a club with everyone watching was gentle? I felt myself losing control, voice rising. I can't believe you're this cruel. From the corner of my vision, Zachary stepped forward, tall, broad-shouldered, with a cocky stance. Hey, man, she's done with you. You can't threaten her or... I turned, bridging the distance in a blink, grabbing the collar of his fancy shirt. You think I'm just threatening, you piece of crap? My hand clenched. I'm giving you one chance to back off before I teach you a lesson for real. He hesitated, but pride, or maybe some twisted sense of bravado, spurred him on. Let go or you'll regret it. The challenge in his voice was a mistake. I shoved him hard onto the bar counter. His hip knocked into the edge, and he let out a grunt. People nearby screamed in surprise. He tried to catch himself, but I forced his face down against the sticky bar top with my forearm. The bartender yelped and backed away. Over the pounding music, I heard Linda or someone yelling for security. My fury was ice hot, and I found myself unbuckling my belt with my free hand. Zachary struggled, but I had the advantage of position. I whipped the belt out in one motion, yanked his arm behind his back, and cracked the leather across his backside with a sharp snap. His cry of outrage fueled me. Another blow landed. I heard whispers and gasps. Some people seemed aroused by the drama. Some were simply stunned. It was raw chaos. Joyce screamed, face contorted in horror. Aaron, stop it! She shrieked. Paul lunged, grabbing at my shoulder. I spun, stiff-arming him. He landed on his ass, cursing. Then 2 security guards rushed forward, one hooking an arm around my chest, the other trying to pry me off Zachary. I gave one last strike with the belt, feeling the satisfying recoil, before the guards overpowered me. My chest heaved. The entire club was staring, phones out, no doubt filming. Lights strobed across the bartender's terrified face. The bigger guard, breathing hard, hissed in my ear. That's enough, buddy, you're out of here. I wrenched free, not resisting further. Zachary stood up, humiliated, scanning the bar with flushed cheeks. He touched the red streak on his face from being pressed down. It'd bruise soon. He looked at me, seething. You're insane! I laughed, an ugly, bitter sound. Go on, call the cops. I'll countersue for alienation of affection. Then watch how your name gets dragged through the mud. I'll bury you in a lawsuit. Don't even think I won't. His mouth moved, but no words came out. He was stunned. Maybe half fearing I was serious? And I was. The humiliation in his eyes was a satisfying glint. Then the club's security men half escorted, half threw me toward the exit. The neon letters overhead cast flickering shadows as I stumbled outside. Don't come back! One guard yelled. But it was irrelevant. I'd done what I wanted. Zachary and Joyce both got the message. I wasn't about to roll over. Kyle hurried over from the sidewalk, looking wide-eyed and on edge. Jesus, Aaron, that was intense. I scratched the back of my neck. My shirt was askew from the scuffle. He had that coming, I managed, chest still heaving with angry adrenaline. He's lucky I didn't do worse. Kyle gave a reluctant nod. Let's get you out of here before they decide to file charges. I slid back into my car, mind spinning. Everything had changed. My so-called friend Paul, my wife, her ex-lover, the entire circle of friends who had shown up to enjoy the sick spectacle. In the neon-lit gloom, I dialed Douglas Lima, my go-to lawyer for the roughest circumstances. If Joyce wanted a divorce, I'd make sure she crawled away with less than nothing. Douglas picked up and listened calmly as I laid out the situation, from her sneaking around, the betrayal, to tonight's humiliating display. He let out a low whistle. Aaron, you've got a lot of anger built up. Not that I blame you, but let's handle this right. We'll ruin her on paper, not in the street. I gritted my teeth. I'm all ears. Good. That means house, business, money. We fence it off from her. Let me guess. You bought your house before the marriage, right? Yes. Then that's separate property. She can't touch it unless you made some mistake with joint ownership. I let out a harsh laugh. Never. Title's in my name. He exhaled in satisfaction. Next, your business? Also in your name? It's complicated. Officially, it's my father's corporation, verbal agreement that I'd take over. But on paper, I'm a low-salary manager, so she can't stake a claim on that either. Very smart? That's not all. I froze our joint accounts earlier this evening, cleaned them out. She's not getting a dime. Douglas gave a short chuckle. You're not playing around. Expect that she'll try for alimony, though. She can try, I snarled. I'll let the judge decide. Meanwhile, she won't see a friggin' penny from me unless forced. All right, he said. Chances are high we'll secure a strong advantage. Just keep your nose clean. Don't get arrested. Let me handle everything else. I thanked him and hung up, feeling a brittle sense of control returning. When I got home, the old place had an eerie stillness. The lights felt too bright. A photo of Joyce and me on the mantel mocked me, us smiling at an old friend's wedding just last year. How naive I'd been. Without pausing to dwell, I yanked the frame from the shelf and hurled it in the garbage. Then I pulled out my phone again, scrolling for a name I hadn't called in years. Jacob, a Marine buddy. The kind of man you call when you need something done, no questions asked. He answered. Aaron, long time, no talk. Jacob, I need you and the guys to move a bunch of stuff out of my house tonight. Anything belonging to Joyce, my soon-to-be ex. I want it gone. He chuckled wryly. Still the same old devil. We'll be there in half an hour. Jacob arrived with 3 men, all ex-Marines, each built like a steel wall. Without delay, I showed them the closet, the drawers, all the possessions she'd left behind. Pack it, box it, toss it to the porch, I said. I want it out of my sight, and if you feel like leaving a mark, I won't stop you. One of them, Jose, grinned. You serious, boss? Boot print on every single item, I growled. We'll show her how I feel. They got to work, methodical as a tactical team. Closet doors banged, garment bags were dumped, designer shoes were trampled under heavy boots, lacy dresses, business suits, even her carefully preserved items. Nothing was spared. Jose found her old wedding dress at the back of the guest closet. He pulled it out, a swirl of white and lace. He gave me a sideways look. Special instructions? I folded my arms. A personal touch. Something that leaves it beyond salvage. With a sinister laugh, he tipped a can of beer over it, soaking the bodice. Next, he hawked a glob of spit onto the delicate trim. Finally, he unzipped his pants and relieved himself across the stomach of that dress, while the others hissed with rough amusement. The sour smell rose in the air, and I felt no remorse. When he wrapped it up and flung it onto a pile, a bitter satisfaction coursed through me. Not even 2 hours later, my doorbell rang. I almost hoped it was Joyce herself, a perfect time to watch her meltdown. But instead it was her mother, Victoria, strict, polite, always well-dressed, with graying hair that gave her a dignified look. For a moment, she stood on my porch, eyes traveling from the boxes that lined the entrance to my face. Behind her hovered 2 unwelcome figures, Paul and Linda from the club. She opened her mouth. Aaron, I pointed at Paul and Linda, ignoring her. You too. Those boxes belong to Joyce. Load them in your car or let the rain soak them. Don't care which. Paul bristled, but Linda tugged at his sleeve. They turned around, muttering under their breath, and started grabbing boxes. Then I ushered Victoria inside. She took small, careful steps, gazing at the disarray left behind by Jacob's crew. I crossed my arms, expression cold. What do you want, Victoria? She sighed, her shoulders drooping with sadness. I came to talk, if you'll let me. I gestured toward the couch, but I didn't sit. She sank down, exhaling. Aaron, please understand that I'm not here to justify what Joyce did. She was completely out of line. She cheated, she lied, and it's disgraceful. I said nothing. My anger still simmered, but I managed to keep my cool. Victoria spoke softly, picking at a spot on her knee. She called me, after you left the club. Told me you... She hesitated. Well, that you attacked Zachary. You humiliated him publicly. That was assault. Yeah, I know. My words dripped with sarcasm. He can press charges if he wants, but I doubt he will. I'll bury him in legal fees. She lowered her gaze. Aaron, the reason I came is because she's planning to keep seeing him. She wants a divorce. She thinks you're controlling, that you never valued her rebellions or new ideas. And, well, she always had complaints, I said curtly. But she never mentioned them. If she was unhappy, she could have come to me, asked for therapy, or parted civilly. She didn't. She slammed me behind my back. Victoria's face twisted with regret. I know, I won't defend that, but as her mother, I'm afraid. If you proceed with this scorched earth approach, none of us will come out unscathed. I laughed, short and harsh. So, you want me to make it easy for her? She shook her head. I want you to calm down enough to see reason. If she's truly done with you, let her go. Don't destroy her over it. An unexpected rage flared in my chest. She already destroyed me. 5 years of marriage, trashed. She humiliated me in front of half the town. You really think I care anymore who gets hurt? Victoria's eyes flickered with tears. She suddenly slid down, kneeling in front of me. My breath caught. I'd never seen this proud woman on her knees for anything. Please, she begged, voice trembling. She's my daughter, but I know how you can be. If you divorce her, strip away everything, she'll have nothing. She might move back home with me and her father, but that'll crush her spirit. She says she'll start drinking herself into oblivion. She threatened to do it if you refuse any support. I'm scared she'll do something desperate. I stared at Victoria's pleading face. My resentment was so strong that empathy felt almost non-existent. You're telling me to keep her from hitting rock bottom? She did it to herself. I'm telling you not to make it even worse. Please don't ruin her life entirely. Then she glanced up through watery eyes. Hear me out. Joyce is pregnant. An electric jolt went up my spine. Pregnant? That's impossible. My voice came out in a near growl. She never said anything to me. Victoria nodded miserably. She only found out a few days ago. She didn't know how to tell you, especially after Zach came back into the picture. She was flustered. Maybe it's Zach's baby, maybe it's yours. My chest tightened. The anger returned in a tidal wave. She can't even be sure who the father is, can she? Victoria swallowed. We'll have to do a DNA test eventually, but for now, please, Aaron, don't finalize the divorce just yet. Let's see if it's your child. A swirl of thoughts hammered my brain. The baby could be Zach's, or it could be mine. The mother of my potential child just intentionally publicly humiliated me. My stomach twisted with disgust, but for a fleeting second, the fatherly instinct that I never knew I had flickered. Then I shoved it aside. The hurt ran deeper. Tell her I'll let the lawyers handle it. If there's a baby that's actually mine, I'll do what's legal, but I'm not backing down from divorcing her. And if the child's Zach's, let him pay child support. Victoria stood, tears streaking her cheeks. Her voice cracked. You used to be kind, Aaron. I stared back, unmoved. I was, yes. Don't forget who taught me not to be. Your daughter? She left in silence. Within a week, the rumor mill kicked into overdrive. Half the town heard about my meltdown at the Crystal Globe. Some folks said I'd nearly ended Zach, while others considered it a heroic stand for a wronged husband. Paul and Linda did their best to salvage their social standing, but they'd lost my respect and, more crucially for them, my business's IT backing. Their two companies basically fell into chaos overnight. I terminated their service contracts. Their data, once stored on our servers, was purged. Legally, after repeated renewal attempts they ignored. They couldn't pivot in time, so accounting records, vendor lists, and client data vanished in the digital ether. Meanwhile, Zach's place of employment, Mr. Patel's manufacturing firm, caught wind of his extracurricular fiasco, courtesy of a friendly tip I'd provided. No boss wants negative publicity or potential lawsuits. He was fired without severance. The official reason might have been performance issues, but we both knew the truth. Joyce's affair cost Zach his livelihood, and her name was mud around town. When I sent the divorce papers her way, the petition included an adultery claim, complete with incriminating photos from the club. Kyle had discreetly snapped them. She couldn't dispute a thing. In the midst of all this, the pregnancy question loomed. Joyce's lawyer attempted to delay the proceedings, saying a DNA test was needed, that it might affect property settlement. But my lawyer, Douglas, hammered home that I owned the house prior to marriage and was only a nominal employee at my father's company. Joyce had no right to any assets, so the baby question, my lawyer argued, was separate. If the child was mine, we'd handle child support, but that didn't entitle her to half my house or half an IT business I didn't legally own. The judge agreed. So they insisted on a paternity test, but the results weren't immediate. We discovered during the hearing that Joyce was barely 6 or 7 weeks pregnant, meaning an accurate test might require more time. The judge, unimpressed, scheduled a follow-up hearing for after the baby's birth to finalize any custody child support if needed. In the meantime, he granted the divorce. And because Joyce out-earned me on record, my official salary was conveniently low, the court awarded me spousal support, $500 a month for 2 years, or until I remarried. She was livid. She called me every sort of monster, She even accused me of setting this up from the start to trap her in a marriage, then ambush her. I didn't care. The moment that decree was stamped, I was free. But the drama didn't stop. A month after the court hearing, Joyce's mother showed up again at my place, this time with tears and anger. She told me that Zach had discovered, through some early blood test or rumor, that the baby likely wasn't his. He stormed out, no longer interested in playing house with a pregnant woman who had blindsided him with potential fatherhood. He left town altogether. Joyce was hospitalized one night for exhaustion and stress. Victoria blamed me. I told her bluntly, "Not my problem. I gave her the chance to handle this quietly. She chose otherwise." I tried to reclaim a sense of normalcy. I got 2 German Shepherd pups, Tank and Scout, names I ended up changing later to Titan and Luna. They made coming home rewarding rather than a reminder of the betrayal. Their bounding energy, loyalty, and unconditional affection healed wounds I never realized were so deep. And in that time, I met someone, Emily. We bonded over our shared love of dogs. She had a gorgeous German Shepherd named Rex, a big goofball who took an instant liking to Titan and Luna. Emily and I started with casual coffees at the dog park, extended hikes in the nearby trails, then dinners. It was refreshingly genuine. No games, no secrets. She asked me once about my ex, and I told her the gist. She nodded sympathetically but never pried for too many messy details. We just let ourselves grow closer naturally. A calm, fulfilling life began to take shape. Paul and Linda's world was in turmoil, from what I heard. They lost major clients who needed reliable IT coverage. They blamed each other for ignoring my contract renewal messages, leading to lawsuits from multiple smaller businesses that lost all their financial data when I shut down their server access. Their marriage faltered amid the stress, with rumors that Linda had moved back in with her aunt. My ex-wife, Joyce, was mostly silent, facing her complicated pregnancy alone. I hoped that would be the end of the story. Months melted away. My divorce was final, and the memory of Joyce's deceit had gradually become a dull ache instead of a searing wound. I didn't track how her pregnancy progressed. I assumed that if the baby was mine, I'd be notified and demanded for support. That never happened, so I put it out of my mind. On a muggy night after a late IT maintenance shift at my father's company, I was at home giving Titan and Luna their bedtime treats when the doorbell rang. It was almost 10 p.m. Unease prickled. I never got visitors that late unless it was an emergency. Titan let out a deep bark. I pulled the door open, prepared to tell some solicitor to get lost. And then I froze. There stood Joyce, hair disheveled, a worn sweater clinging to her shoulders, and in her arms, an infant. A baby so tiny it didn't look more than a couple of weeks old at most. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Her face was blotchy, eyes puffy, lips dry. Titan let out another bark, stepping forward protectively. I curled my hand into his collar, holding him back. "Stop!" Joyce mumbled. Her voice trembled. "Aaron, let me explain." My stomach clenched. "What do you want?" I said flatly. My mind jumped instantly to paternity. Could this be my child? She gulped, adjusting the infant in her arms. That's when I noticed the baby's features. Clearly, the child had a different skin tone, not Zach's, not mine. My jaws tensed. She realized my line of sight and let out a shaky breath. "It's someone from work, another man. I don't even know if I want to say who, but definitely not you, not Zach. He's gone. I have no money. This father wants nothing to do with us. It's complicated, but I'm alone, and You have the nerve to show up here?" I said, voice tightening. "We're divorced. That child isn't mine. You made your bed. Now you're dealing with the consequences." She glared through tears. "I was desperate for attention because you were always so cold, always so calculating. You put your career, your status, your controlling nature first. I felt worthless, so I went looking elsewhere. And yeah, I messed up with Zach, but I needed something. Then it turned out he wasn't the father. Another fling. And now I'm stuck with this baby. No steady income, no partner, and a house that I can't pay for because I lost my job. I got fired for missing work. Paul and Linda cut ties with me. I have nothing." She swallowed, eyes brimming with tears. "You're partially to blame for the spiral. You never listened." She was shaking, and the baby fussed. I felt a mild pity for the infant, who was innocent in all this. But for her? She was accusing me of pushing her to cheat, to impregnate herself with another man's child. My stance hardened. She inhaled. "You owe me, Aaron. I wouldn't be in this position if you just shown me some respect, some comfort." You were so consumed with your stupid revenge after you realized I was unhappy. You never gave me a chance to talk things out. Now look at me." Tears trailed down her cheeks. "I'm broke, homeless with a newborn, and you're living your best life with those dogs, and probably some new girlfriend. You have the money, you do. You can spare a fraction to help me. I'm not asking for luxury, just some support. Please." My lips curled into a snarl. This was the height of audacity. She'd soared from one affair to another, never once tried to own up to her mistakes in a meaningful way. Even when we parted, she was content to run off with Zach until life got tough. And now she was blaming me for her self-destruction. "You want me to open my wallet? Are you insane?" My voice was measured, but venom dripped from each word. "Let's be clear. This child isn't mine. If you need help, apply for welfare or go beg the real father. You lost your job? That's not my problem. You're not on my payroll. You're not my responsibility." She widened her eyes, tears spilling as the baby started to cry in earnest. "You'd turn your back on me after 5 years of marriage?" I stared at the bundle she held. "Those 5 years ended the night you tried to publicly degrade me. And everything that came after, the pregnancy, the men, the lies, that's on you. Get yourself out of your own mess." She took a trembling step toward the threshold. I've nowhere else to stay. Mom told me if I keep drinking, she won't let me in. And I've been drinking a bit. I can't help it. I'm depressed, Aaron. You don't get it." Titan started barking again, sensing the tension. The baby's crying escalated to panicked wails. The door was still open, letting the night's humidity seep into the house. My jaw clenched, hand tightening on the doorknob. "You're not coming in," I told her icily. "We're done." Her face contorted. In that moment, I saw desperation, sorrow, and hatred flash across her features. She was a shell of the confident woman I once knew, or thought I knew. She cast an angry look at me. "You can't do this! You ruined me! You turned everyone against me! You manipulated the finances, turned your father's business into a fortress, so I had no claim. Now you're acting heartless! You are a villain, Aaron!" I gave a short, hollow laugh. "Yes, maybe I am. But you're the one who asked for a divorce while groping your ex in a nightclub. You forced my hand, lied about fatherhood, and bed-hopped until the baby came out a color that obviously belongs to someone else. Don't paint me as the only sinner here." She tried to speak, but tears choked her. The baby's cries became frantic. Birds scattered from a nearby tree at the noise. With a swift motion, I stepped back over the threshold and slammed the door in her face. The final image I saw was her shocked expression, the baby's wrinkled face scrunched in a wail and her eyes shining with betrayal. Then the door clicked shut. I stood there for a moment, heart pounding, Titan and Luna both whining, uncertain. Through the door, I heard muffled crying and a faint pounding, but I remained unmoved. My final gift to her, if you could call it that, was the resolve to send her away. If she wanted to blame me for all her terrible life choices, so be it, but no part of me would rescue her again. That chapter was closed.